Welcome to the show. Welcome to Your Thought Life podcast. I am your host, Michael Anderson. Today we're talking about the journey from manager to executive. I have been incredibly fortunate to have negotiated this specific topic, and I want to share with you some of the things that I have learned over the course of now 25 plus years of managerial expertise, with the last 10 being in executive level roles, apart from running my own businesses, just to give you a glimpse at what this entails and how do you make the move from manager to executive in a way that doesn't make it incredibly difficult only for the 1%. There is a recipe and a formula to this. And I want to try to break down some of the aspects. We can't cover them all, but we will at least give you a nice little roadmap that you can begin to utilize to make sense of this. I wanted to climb the org chart. I always had a desire to have my picture and name at the top of a vertical. I'm going to encourage you to shift your mindset. And I want you to think about what is it that is really driving your desire to move from manager to executive. Because if it's compensation, I'm going to tell you something right now that you're probably not going to like. And that is, if you don't see and have an appreciation for all that comes along with that compensation from a day-to-day operational perspective, from a strategic vision perspective, from an influence perspective, from a persuasion at a very high level, from the board all the way down to people reporting to you. And if you don't have a good grasp of you and the EQ that is required, the presence that you need, this is not going to be something that you're going to enjoy, because the responsibilities here far outweigh and have much more effect on the human psyche than the compensation is able to address. And so if money or prestige is your principal purpose, this is going to be an incredibly tough decision for you. So without further ado, let's jump into this and break this down to see whether or not at the end of the day you want to make this journey or not. We're going to do this in a couple of different segments. I believe it's 3. And the first one is we want to get a baseline understanding. So let's start with the basics. What separates a manager from an executive? Managers optimize. They focus on execution. They're doing tasks like budgeting and scheduling, and they're doing performance matrix and such. Whereas the executive, that's a different skill set. It's a different level of influence. It's a different level of interaction, right? They're looking at strategy, innovation. When you're at the top of a particular org chart, you're responsible for shaping the vision, the strategy, and the culture. In summary, the managerial role is one that is tactical. The executive role is one that is strategic. Neuroscience research shows that strategic thinking activates different areas of the brain than tactical execution. What this means, that means that evolving your thinking is not just metamorphic, it's biological. You've got to become another person. Note this key. Managers manage tasks. Executives lead systems. Your mindset has to expand from doing things right to doing the right thing. Whereas you have a small part in the overall strategy, now you're at the pinnacle of the strategy for your division. That's segment one. Here's segment two. We just talked about a significant shift away from a metamorphosis into some literal biological change that spawns us to have a need for a mindset shift for executive level thinking. So, how do you make the shift? There's about 7 or 8 different things that you need to upgrade. We're going to capitalize on the top 5 that science says improves are the real world components that you need to be successful. Number one is you have to begin moving how you think from control to empowerment. Executives, at least the good ones, don't micromanage. They build capable teams, they release them to do their job, and they oversee the work product, the end result, the outcome. A Gallup study shows that empowering employees increases engagement up to 23%. So you have to begin to replace how can I do this better with who can do this better. You don't have to have all of the answers. You have to create an environment that is induced. You have to create an environment that produces the best result. Number two, you're moving from, again, tactical like the manager to strategic as an executive. You start asking high-level questions. What's that mean? What's the long-term impact of this decision, of this operation, of this recommendation? How does this align with our mission? How does it align with the vision? How does it align operationally with our near-term goals? Strategic leaders think in terms of years, not just months and days. So you're broadening your horizon. Number three, you're moving from urgency to importance. Remember, if the manager is tactically focused, the executive is strategically focused. So there are still going to be things that you will need to get done in a timely manner. We're not saying that, but we're starting to shift from putting out fires to preventing them. So we're going from reactive to proactive. And this requires, in and of itself, a different way of positioning yourself with your teams. And it requires, to the point of this segment too, a mindset shift away from the former and into what we call the Eisenhower matrix, which is prioritizing what's important, even if it's not urgent. Number four, you're going to be moving from performer to coach. Your job isn't just to deliver results. That is a key part. You will be rated on that. However, you must develop your people, your direct reports. Harvard research shows that organizations with strong coaching cultures outperform their peers time and time again. If you are to back away from the day-to-day so that you can be strategic, you have to have installed people that you can trust, people that you can depend on, and that you can oversee in a coaching collaborative model and help them to produce the product that you need, that you desire, that you want to showcase to the board of directors or whomever you report to. If you don't know how to coach, it's going to be important that you get yourself a coach. Come to an understanding such that you understand strategically how the coach does what the coach does. And then you're now able to take that firsthand account where someone's coaching you effectively, and now you can reciprocate and do that for your direct reports. That's the easiest way to do that. Number five, you're moving from self to enterprise thinking. The executive makes decisions with the entire organization in mind, not just a team like the manager. It's not just their department, right? It's everyone that makes up this organization, irrespective of how many teams that come, irrespective of how many teams that composition actually looks like. This means that thinking cross functionally and balancing the competing priorities are incredibly important and innate to this leader's ability to be effective in the role. You are a bridge builder now. You're looking across the entire organization as sort of a master architect, right? Aligning it with strategy, aligning it with the vision, aligning it with the goals, and seeing all of those leaders and assisting all of those leaders hit the and seeing all of those leaders and coaching all of those leaders so that they're able to hit their goal, their milestone, their performance metric, whatever the case is. That is the role that you play. And this is why the mindset shift is so important. Now let's look at segment 3, the action plan. You have to start your executive journey with an action plan. Anytime I've gone into an organization, the first thing that the board desired of me was, I want to see your 30, 60, 90-day plan. And what that says to them is you have carefully gone through a process of understanding where the organization is today, what the desired outcomes are, short term and long term, and you have mapped out a strategic plan to move them from where they are to where they desire to be, probably in various phases. This is the action plan. If you're in a role where this is a requirement of you, then I want to share with you a quick and dirty way that you can begin to put this plan together in a reasonable amount of time, where reasonable is about 30 days. First things first, you are going to have to block strategic thinking time weekly leading up to that first 30 days. You're going to set aside an hour to 2 hours, whatever you need, given your understanding of the organization, of this specific industry, and the level of research that is required of you, so that you can get all of the facts that you need to put the strategy together, right? This is you really understanding big picture, what's going on right now. And in order for you to really get a good team, in order for you to get a good purview of that, you're going to have to do step 2, which is bring in all of your direct reports. And if they don't all report to you, you're going to have to book time with adjacent leaders so that you can begin to understand what are their priorities, how do those fit into what you have to do, or how do those detract from what you're trying to do, and gain an appreciation for some of the issues that these other teams are currently facing, because all of these inputs are going to weigh in on how quickly you can develop your plan to get to the output, desired income, the desired end state that the executive team or the board is asking for. So you're going to be booking a lot of meetings, doing an awful lot of discovery to really understand what it is that needs to be done, what's the current state, and what is a logical methodology and strategy to get there. One final thing, if you have not been in an executive role before, it is incredibly important for you to have a mentor, somebody who has been in your industry, in your specific seat, and has been there and done that, everything that you're getting ready to do. Because here's the deal, you can figure it out over time. But when you become an executive, you have a finite amount of time to demonstrate competency, to demonstrate that they made the right decision in selecting you. And you have a small window of opportunity. There's that 90, that 30, 60, 90. That's your window to showcase that you got this, you're moving it forward, and that there are markers that you have set at least quarterly so that when you check in, they can see the progress that you said you were going to make at each of these intervals. If you've never been in this space before, it's imperative that you get a coach to help you navigate this. There's so many things that I didn't get to cover here that are critical that a coach will be able to share with you to give you foresight so that you can be successful. If you want to move from manager to executive, it is most certainly doable. If I can do it, I tell all of my mentees and clients, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And that's not a knock on me, but I'm just a common guy from California with a common education. And I was fortunate to have people put in my path. And I also bought coaching and mentoring to help me break through some of those barriers that I didn't quite understand as I moved from unconscious competence to, or from conscious competence to unconscious competence. You need that person to really guide you through that. The jump from manager to executive is far less about title, authority, and money, and it's more about identity. You will have to become a different person. It's about seeing yourself not just as a leader of tasks, but a leader of leaders. So when you upgrade your mindset and you elevate your questions and you expand your perspective, you don't just grow your career, you grow you. And your growth and capacity to be effective here is really tied to the amount of work that you're willing to do on the inside. Your trajectory and ability to be effective in the role is tied to what you're willing to do internally. So I'm hopeful that this resonates with you. Thank you so much for your time today. Consider leaving us a review. We certainly appreciate each of you who do that. And remember, you are enough. You can do it. You are uniquely equipped to realize your goals. Until next time, take care and keep pushing forward.